Okay, can you tell me the most widely used street name in all of the US? Go ahead, I'll wait. Welcome to episode 3 of I Have No Idea What I'm Doing. I'm Christian, and today we're going to talk about street names. Do you ever think about street names? Where they come from? Who gets to pick them? How often they get changed? In parts of Nicaragua, and I'd venture to guess other similar nations, they don't actually have street names or numbered addresses. Your address might be something like 3rd Building North Rotunda or Pink House West of School. Talk about a postal worker's nightmare. In our more modern society, street names are fairly important. First, we give directions based on them. Second, we make assumptions based on street names. Think about a farm to market road. That makes me think of its likely country living outside of town. Or when you hear somebody lives on a court, it often means they live on a cul-de-sac. Or even the term highway. They're not normally known for residential, so we can often make assumptions just based on their names. And third, whether we realize it or not, we place assumed value or worth of someone or something just based on their street name alone. Think about a few common ones that most of us know. Wall Street, Park Avenue, Hollywood Boulevard, Pennsylvania Avenue, Broadway, Rodeo Drive. I guarantee you have some preset notions about many of these famous streets. I'm not going to get into it or even recommend it based on its appropriateness, but years ago Chris Rock did a stand-up routine on the street name of Martin Luther King Jr., also known in many towns as MLK Boulevard. The gist of it being that, in his view, MLK Boulevard was almost always on a certain side of town, one that even he was scared of venturing to. And if I recall, the funniest line from it was something along the lines of, "When I have a friend call me and ask for directions and they tell me they're on MLK, the only direction I give them is run!" So why then am I randomly talking about street names? Well, a couple of weeks ago, I was listening to a minister speak, and he asked a question in passing that I don't even really recall it connecting much with his message, but it grabbed me and it sent my mind running. The simple question he asked was, "What is the name of the street you live on?" This quick question got me thinking not only about the name of the street I currently live on, but also the names of the streets that I've lived on in the past. And as I thought about it, I remember I've lived on Texas Street twice, on Brittany Drive, on Compton Street, and while none of these streets are important to you, I realized just by naming them, there are very real emotions and feelings that come back to me for each one. On the now renamed Ennis Court, I learned to ride my bike, and I learned to conquer a very real fear in getting enough courage to finally ride down the steep hill in front of our apartment. I also remember being able to walk out our back door, through a gate, and enter my elementary school grounds directly. You could likely see a classroom or two of mine from our back window. On Crawford Lane, I remember being all alone, hitting the pavement, and limping my way back across town in what seemed like a 50-mile hike after what was probably my worst bike crash as a kid. Skinned knees and elbows now seem like a badge of honor, but to an 11-year-old, it was the pits. Both of my boys were brought home from the hospital to East Riverside Drive. And the first time I ever left home and lived by myself, I moved from 3rd Street to 19th Street, in different towns albeit, and the majority of Christmas memories I have took place in or around my grandparents' home on Yucca Drive. And so as I've been thinking about it more and more the last week or so, I'm starting to view street names a little like music or certain smells. You know, those specific melodies or scents that immediately draw you back to a time or place, or often a feeling or emotion you once had. Granted, they're not going to always be great memories, but they can take you back nonetheless. And thinking about streets has had a similar effect on me the last few days. I wonder if maybe we've lost a little in the importance of our streets because of the way we live now. Life is crazy nuts, right? Like we schedule our calendars down to the minute, and we call them back up just to make pickups and drop-offs work. With that said, do you know your neighbors? The ones that actually live on your street? With that said, do you know your neighbors? The ones that actually live on your street? Do they know you? What about your metaphorical neighbors? The ones you do business with? The ones at the coffee shop? The ones you connect with multiple times per week? It definitely takes time and energy, and those are two things we often don't allow ourselves to have anymore. We all love streets, but without taking a moment just to think about them, we may not recognize their importance. What is the name of your street? What is the name of the street that you play on? What about the one that you work on? And definitely not least important, what's the name of the street you minister on? Maybe if we take a moment to start naming them again, we might just begin to bring back the importance and meaning to them. This week, I'd love for you to take the time to learn about somebody else's streets and what types of memories they elicit. Who knows, maybe our streets will bring a little commonality to our conversations, more than I feel like many of the ones we have today do. So I ask you then, what street do you live on? And if you don't want to tell me that, what street do you have fond memories of? I want to know your street stories. Oh, and before I forget, let's go back to that question all the way from the lead, just so you have your own party trivia to wow with. Can you tell me the most widely used street name in all of the US? If you guess Main Street or First Street, you're close, but you're incorrect. Believe it or not, the most widely used street name in the United States is Second Street. First comes in second and Main comes in third. I don't exactly know why, but my business partner has a pretty good theory that many times First Street is likely Main Street or vice versa in a town, which would then lower the number of uses for each below Second Street. So now you know. As always, thank you for watching. I'd love it if you subscribed to these videos, and if you gained anything out of it, I'd love it if you shared it with a friend. We're having a blast producing them, and we're so grateful you're willing to be along for the ride. I didn't hit record.